The original Bloom was really one piece of art, if you like. It, of course, being generative, makes itself in many millions of variations, but essentially they all fit within one envelope of possibilities. In the 10 years since, Peter and I have worked together quite a lot on generative music and have come up with thousands of other ideas. And so the 10 Worlds version includes the original one and another 9 generative pieces, which have a sort of family resemblance to Bloom, but are different envelopes of possibilities, really, both sonically and visually.
It's a very simple process. You tap on the screen, and when you tap, a circle expands a bit like a ripple in a pond, and that releases a sort of bell-like sound. And then that repeats again, and it doesn't sound like much, but you play a few notes, and they all start repeating, you get quite a hypnotic pattern. And then there's a little bit of mass behind it that kind of slightly disintegrates that pattern and plays with it. Some notes start to repeat more frequently, some take longer, and it just evolves, it constantly recombines. And that's something that comes largely out of Brian's historical work with ambient and generative music.
The whole process in every respect was very collaborative, in that I would come up with a sound, or Peter would choose a sound from the ones I had available, and then I'd say, well, maybe we can tweak that a little bit in this way, or maybe it could have these other possibilities as well. The sounds that we used finally were specifically made for Bloom. Each individual piece has a restricted palette, but the 10 pieces altogether have quite a range now.
I think there's a good illustration of how one of the most fundamental qualities of Bloom came about, actually, that Brian was playing with it and tried to repeat so they lined up and they didn't. And it turned out there was a bug in the code. It was just slightly short of where the delay should fall, so you couldn't actually play in time. And Brian immediately suggested that I actually make more of that, which is something as a developer I'd probably never have thought to do. I kind of took that idea and then ran with it, and I found some interesting ways to develop that. And one of the features that's new on Bloom 10 Worlds is everything very steadily slows down. It's not actually, we didn't do that in the original Bloom, but whatever you play, the notes are drifting further and further and further apart.
Most of these 10 new worlds that we've just released really started from Peter looking at the original Bloom and saying, okay, let's try changing it in this way or that way. What else can we do with it? And then me coming in and saying, yeah, that works really well, but wouldn't it be nicer if it did this or that? So it's not the usual relationship between, it's not artist and technician. We're both operating as artists. One of the awful things about nearly all software is that it's drowning in options. The interface is so complex and ugly because of that. So we thought, let's just make it very easy to use so that you can immediately get a result from it, but make it so that the options that are there are subtle enough to produce some significant changes.
The more you play, the quieter it gets. There's various things that only really unlock if you actually stand back from it and take a bit of time. I think we've got with Bloom 10 an interface that gives you what you need, not necessarily what you intended.
how do we make a piece that surprises us, actually? Because that's what I want. I want to be somewhere interesting musically, and I want there to be surprises. I don't want it to be the same place all the time.